Now, we shall see the examination of motor system. In the motor system examination, you have to look for the bulk of the muscle, then the tone of the muscle, power of the muscle, coordination, involuntary movement and reflexes. And after that, one more thing, stance, gait and rhombus sign. Therefore, these are the 7 points you have to remember. First one is the bulk of the muscle. Bulk of the muscle in hemiplegia, when there is acute hemiplegia, don't expect to get any loss of bulk, but the patient can have loss of bulk because of the other illnesses. Is the point clear? But in the case of old hemiplegia, there can be loss of bulk. And that loss of bulk is the uniform thinning of the muscle, and that is what is called disuse atrophy. The bulk of the muscle you have to observe from the front, and you have to ideally remove the dress and see that bulk of the muscle, that is the spinal musculature. Therefore, you have to see the sternocleidomastoid, trapezius, the deltoid, you have to see that it is the biceps, and you have to see the forearm muscles, and you have to compare the muscles in the palm. You are seeing the thenar and hypothenar. After that, you have to concentrate on the pectoral muscles, the way in which the abdomen is moving, the front of the thigh, then the quadriceps, and the leg you will not get any muscle in the front. And you have to see the sole to see whether there is any wasting of the small muscles of the feet. And you have to again make the patient there in the supine position, the prone position, and do the exam. Do that. Look for you can see that say trapezius, scapula muscles, paraspinal muscles, and after the paraspinal muscles you have to compare with the deltoid, then it is the tricep muscles. The rest we have discussed. Next, after completing the paraspinal muscle, you have to see the size of the gluteal muscle. Sometimes you will not be able to see the bulk of the gluteal muscle in most of the patients, but there is no harm in palpating and comparing. Of course, you should get the consent. Next, the back of the thigh, the hamstring muscle, then the back of the leg, it is the, say, this is the calf muscles. The point clear? Yes or no? Yes. And this is the way you have to look for the bulk of the muscle, but usually in hemiparesis it is not important. But you may get marked wasting in the case of what is called infantile hemiplegia, that is a hemiplegia developing usually a neonatal course. Next, say, when you are getting loss of bulk, you have to measure the gut, that we will discuss in the subsequent nervous system examination. After the bulk, next it is the tone. The tone you can assess from the way in which the person is keeping the limb, and usually usually when he is keeping the limb like this, the toe will direct to the ceiling. And if and he is resting the toe, then it is resting the feet on the heel. Suppose if he is resting the foot on the outer aspect, that is the helplessness position. You have to say that there is a marked loss of tone there in the say internal rotators. Is the point clear? Yes. Now we have to examine the method of looking for the tone. Method of looking for the tone, you have to examine mainly there in the upper and lower limbs. That too, first you have to do there in the the distal most part. Now, a part of the upper limb. You can even test the tone there in the fingers. Finger, now flexor tone, this is the finger, say extensor tone. You know that tone is there, and you have to compare what is happening on that. You know that tone is the state of contraction of the resting muscle that can be assessed by doing movement against the direction of normal action of that muscle. That point clear? Yes. That is why, see, I answer because you were wondering when I am doing like this, you say you are not readily agreeing that I am testing the, see, flexors. Now it is clear. Yes. Now, after that, you have to note the tone of the muscle acting about the wrist. This is very important. You have to do it very slowly. Right? And you have to do it again in the opposite direction. This is you are doing slowly because when there is an involuntary movement, you are allowing time to forward that involuntary movement on the hand movement. Is the point clear? Yes. At the wrist, see, this is the place where you get, this is the place where you have to look for the rigidity of extrapyramidal disease, especially Parkinsonism. If you are not carefully doing, you will not be able to make a diagnosis. Is that point clear? After that, you have to, when you are testing the tone on one side, immediately you have to do it on the opposite side, because we are basically what we are doing there in the nervous system examination, the right side findings are equal to the opposite side. Next is give shake hand to the patient. Then this is to note that tone of the pronator muscles, and usually this is known to occur when the patient is having spasticity. Spasticity you get in pyramidal lesion and rigidity you get in extrapyramidal lesion. Next is the, see, you are testing the tone, the flexors of the elbow, that is mainly the biceps, and you have to support the elbow, don't hold the muscle here, support and make a series of movement and sudden extension. This is to note where the patient is having the clasp knife in. Series of movements, sudden extension. Of course, there are other tone you can test there in the, let's say, adductors of the shoulder and also the internal rotors of the shoulder. That is not that much important. Of course, you can do that test also. Even you can look the tone there in the neck muscle too. Now, see, next it is you have to do that tone there in the lower limb. The best method to see the tone there in the lower limb, one hand above the knee, other hand below the knee, then roll gently there in the bed. If you are getting any resistance to this movement, note. Is the point clear? Now usually resistance will be for that say external rotation, and compare and note what is happening in the opposite side. Yet another method, simple method, see, you have to hold at the toe and turn to the outer aspect. This is to test that internal rotators of the hip. This is to again and to test the adductors of the hip. You hold here, move gently, and this is the way you have to do. And do here, this is the way you have to test the tone of the adductors. After that, you have to note the tone there in the, say, quadriceps muscles, and that is you flex the knee, but see, don't hold the knee, but only support the knee at the popliteal fossa, and hold at the say ankle and take a series of movement varying in amplitude and also that rate, I mean speed. Then series of movement, sudden flexion. This is again to see that the patient is having clasp knife phenomenon. That point is when you are doing it, never forget to do it on the opposite side also. After doing the tone of the muscle, now it's the bulk of the muscle. The power of the muscle, and the power of the muscle we will demonstrate there in the subsequent nervous system examinations. But you should remember that the power, it can vary from 0 to 5. 5 means normal, 0 means there is no power at all. But when the person is able to lift the limb, that means the kayunnu he is able to lift upper kayunnu, that means his power should be more than 3. If the person is able to stand, the power in the lower limb musculature should be more than 3. Is that point clear? Now, when the power is less than that, that is 2 and 1, how do you look for that? See, the power to say that there is 0, no movement at all, even flickers of contraction you cannot see. Flicker. Suppose if you are seeing a movement like this, in the attempt of flexion of the elbow, when the elbow is supported, not in this way, elbow is supported, that is the grade 1. Then the grade 2 and the grade 3. We know that grade 3 is the power, the movement is possible against the gravity, and say grade 2, when the gravity eliminates, movements are possible. The movements are taking place at the joints and by the action of the respective muscle, and the joint will have a axis. For example, this is the wrist joint. Wrist joint is having an axis like this. When you have to support the limb like this, when you are supporting the limb like this, now the axis of the right axis, the axis of the right wrist is lying perpendicular to the supporting surface. That means gravity is eliminated. This movement is possible, but this movement is not possible, then the muscle power is 2. That point clear? When the joint line, that is the axis of the joint lying parallel, as in this case, see, gravity is acting. And if the person is able to move the limb like this, that means it is against the gravity. This is the way you have to eliminate the gravity, and this is the way you have to say whether the gravity is acting about all joints in the body. Is that point clear? Yes or no? Yes. Now, see, the weakness as well as that tone, that will be maximally involved in the distal part. The power also similarly most affected in the distal part, because we are doing voluntary skilled activities with the help of the pyramidal system. And therefore, in the hand you have to do what is called that, say, hand grip. You have to give the finger course. See, and and see whether you can overcome it. With the difficulty alone you may overcome it, or sometimes you may not at all. That is the grade 5. This is the way you have to look for the grip. And next one, say the grip root value, it is T1. Now, say the wrist flexors and wrist extensors. Wrist flexors C7, 8. Now try to flex. You will not be able to do it in a healthy individual. normal individual, not healthy, normal individual. And this is the, and what I am doing now, I am testing the power of the extensors of the wrist. Are you getting it? And to test the power of the flexors, you have to do opposite. And both flexors, extensors, root value is 7, 8. C7, 8. Now it is the, say, flexors of the elbow. That part of examination we will do specifically the rest of that nervous system examination. Because of the want of time, I am not including that point here. Next is, after the bulk of the muscle, on the hemiplegic side, you will not get full power. On the opposite side, you get that full power. And the power during the neuronal shock state, that is immediately for a few days to weeks following stroke, there will be grade 0 power. Later, you get that appearance of muscle power, usually known to come there in the anti-gravity group of muscles. You may wonder why what is meant by anti-gravity group of muscle. The upper limb, it is there in the flexors, lower limb, it is the extensors. Then you can coolly add two more things. In the internal rotators at the shoulder and also that say internal adductor. This is applicable for the say lower limb. Therefore, hemiplegic posture, if the patient is able to stand, you get hemiplegic posture. That we will discuss there in the stance and gait part. But mind you, this position is due to abnormality in the change of the distribution of the muscle tone. Is that point clear? After that, power, it is the coordination. Coordination, you need to remember two coordination, finger nose test and heel knee test. Finger nose test, say, ഒന്ന് മൂക്ക് ഒന്ന് ഇതൊന്ന് താത്തിയ മെല്ലെ ഒന്ന് താത്തിയ മൂക്ക് കണ്ടോ മതി മതി. Finger nose test, you have to give the instruction to the patient like this. Hold that his finger and എൻ്റെ വിരലൊന്ന് തൊട്ട് നിങ്ങളെ മൂക്ക് തൊട്ട് ഇനി ഒന്ന് തൊട്ട് ഒന്നും കൂടി തൊട്. That means he is not having dysmetria, pass pointing, intention tremor. He is able to touch my fingertip as well as his nose. And അപ്പുറത്തെ ഭാഗത്തും അതേമാതിരി ഒന്ന് ചെയ്ത് when you are showing the for the second time, change the position. And ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് വിരലും ഒന്ന് തമ്മിൽ ദൂരെ ഒന്ന് തൊട്ട് അല്ലല്ല തമ്മിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ തൊട്ട് therefore this is finger test if you want to. Therefore upper limb coordination you can test like this. That point clear? Yes or no? Yes. Why you are showing the object away from the midline? Because he can use all muscles there in the upper limb for that movement. Therefore, incoordination, when it is there, will be well pronounced. The heel knee test is like this. ഈ മടമ്പ് കൊണ്ട് ആദ്യം ഒന്ന് ഇവിടെ തൊടുക, പിന്നെ അതിനുശേഷം നിങ്ങളെ മുട്ടിന് തൊടുക, അതിനുശേഷം തെറ്റാണ്ടൊന്ന് വരക്കുക, പിന്നെ ഇവിടെ ഇട്ടോ എന്നിട്ട് ആദ്യം അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുക. ഒന്ന് ചെയ്താൽ യെസ് ഒന്നും യെസ് ഈസ് ദർ ഇസ് നോ dysmetria, there is no dysmetria, there is no intention tremor, he is correctly doing it. Therefore, heel knee test is normal, finger nose test is normal. Usually in hemiplegia, there will not be much coordination. But you should say that coordination cannot be tested because of the weakness. If the weakness is not that much great, there can be some involvement of the coordination because of the weakness. But if the incoordination is more pronounced than the extent of weakness, then you have to consider involvement of the cerebellar function. Along with that, as in the case of ataxic hemiparesis. The point clear? Yes or no? After this much coordination, it is the involuntary movement. Involuntary movement, you have to see whole musculature and what are the involuntary movement sometimes it is known to occur along with stroke or hemiplegia. The involuntary movement, when he is trying to pick up clothes from that, he may start doing like this sometimes. This is what is called clonus. This is the clonus may appear when the patient is doing some work. Method of examination as clonus is different. Are you getting the point? That we will discuss under reflexes. Now, next movement, it is the tremor. There can be coarse tremor, just like intention tremor I mentioned. Sometimes it can be very coarse tremor, that is what is called rubral tremor. Sometimes it can be chorea coming on the one half of the body, or sometimes there can be even athetoid movement or a combination of. This is known to occur on this one half of the body when the stroke is involving the brainstem. Basal ganglia. Is the point clear? Basal ganglia, you know that it is close to the internal capsule, and medially it is the thalamus. And therefore, definitely when an internal capsular lesion can involve the basal ganglia as well as thalamus. And therefore, along with the hemiplegia, you get thalamic syndrome. Along with the hemiplegia, sometimes you may get basal ganglia. And this movement abnormality is usually seen in involvement of the basal ganglia. Sometimes, to a surprise, you may not be stand very close to the patient because he may be making violent, say, wide range of flinging movement of the limb. Kayun pattan on the bondicha, the kayun galu on the pattan, that is, this is what is called hemibalismus. This is known to occur in stroke involving that basal ganglia, that is the subthalamic nucleus of Lewis. That point clear? Yes or no? After that involuntary movement, next it is the reflexes. Reflexes is the superficial reflexes, deep reflexes, and release of primitive reflexes. First, the superficial reflex, and to start with what is called the corneal reflex. It is the conjunctival reflex, corneal reflex, palatal reflex, gag reflex. Is that point clear? Usually, say, these reflexes, you have to test it. And if the patient is unconscious, definitely you have to look for this. That we will see. And the method of looking for conjunctival reflex, corneal reflex, you have to use a sterile piece of cotton, especially when the patient is unconscious, and you have to do make a wisp of cotton and ask the patient look to this side and I am touching the conjunctiva, you are seeing brisk closure of both eyes. Therefore, this is the conjunctival reflex. Stimulation of one eye, that is fifth cranial afferent, closure of both eyes, that is bilateral seventh, and the center is the pons, mid pons. Now, you have to do it on the opposite side, conjunctival reflex. But the corneal reflex, to do like this, here, brisk response. You can see the brisk response. And root value already I have mentioned. Are you getting the point? It is risky to touch the conjunctiva when the patient is having anesthesia. Therefore, say, there it is better not to do it. Instead of that, you blow air and see the response. The point clear? Blow air through a syringe and see the response. If you are touching the cornea in an anesthetic patient, that can produce corneal aberration and corneal opacification later. Now, after the corneal and conjunctival, the time to test that, say, palatal reflex. Get me a paper get me a paper, a long paper, like ordinary paper, long paper. See, very plain paper, and that is to test that palate reflex and a gag reflex. And you have to, ideally you have to use a kuchi to do this palate. But if you, when you are trying to do this with the kuchi, there is a risk of falling that cotton into the mouth of the patient. Therefore, you can avoid this by holding the paper like this. You know that you are making arrow, you might have done it very many times there in the classrooms. But this is the use of this arrow there in clinical examination. You have to make this arrow like this, and then you get a pointed end, and this you can make use of to test the palatal reflex. You test കണ്ണടച്ച് നോക്ക് ഒന്ന് വായൊന്ന് തൊടുക ഇതിനുകൊണ്ട് ഇതേമാതിരി തൊടുക ചെയ്യും കണ്ണടച്ചു you are seeing that, and you have to see the response. You have to, when you are doing it, always you have to, the kidney tray should be ready. Sometimes the patient may vomit, and you know that the palatal reflex is very much difficult, inconvenient to the patient. With the same pointer arrow, you test the posterior pharyngeal wall to look for the gag reflex. You should remember that both the palatal reflex and gag reflex are right and left. Only reflex that is a sync is the jaw jerk. All others are right and left, including the anal reflex. Is the point clear? And palatal reflex, gag reflex, you have to test it by touching the posterior pharyngeal wall. But in an unconscious patient, it is easy to test. I will describe later. And after examining the palatal reflex, next it is the superficial reflex. Next it is the root value of the palatal reflex. You know that it is the 9th and 10th. Afferent is the 9th, efferent is both the 10th. Is that point clear? Center is there in the medulla. ഒന്ന് ബട്ടൺ ആയിക്കോ, ഇവിടുന്ന് മാത്രം അയച്ചാൽ എന്നിട്ട് ബനിയനൊന്ന് പഠിച്ചാൽ ബനിയൻ ഈ പാൻ്റൊന്ന് കുറച്ച് താഴ്ത്തിയാൽ മതി. Now, this is the abdominal reflex. Abdominal reflex, you know that this is the Seyfarth process. This landmark you should know. This is the pubic symphysis, this is the umbilic. This is T6, this is T12, this is T10. Then, the ഇങ്ങോട്ട് നോക്ക്, ഇതേമാതിരി ഒന്ന് വയറിൽ ഒന്ന് വരക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ഒന്നും ആവില്ല കേട്ടോ. Now, at the level of umbilical, you stroke like this, and you can see the condition. See that movement is symmetrical or not. That means, say it is movement is from T6 to T10, it is normal, and this is to the lower quadrant, that is T10 to T12. That point clear? It is better to draw from lateral aspect. When you are drawing, don't cross over to the opposite side. And this is a superficial reflex, and in this, even though it is superficial reflexes are polysynaptic reflexes, and reflex circuit will be completed with the help of the pyramidal tract. In other words, in the reflex arm, pyramidal tract is also is a component of the reflex arm. Therefore, when there is pyramidal lesion, the superficial reflex will be absent. Is that point clear? In right side hemiplegia, right side abdominal reflex will be absent or decreased. After that, it is the cremasteric reflex. Root value is L1. It is inconvenient for the patient to do that, but in certain situations you have to do it. You have to stroke on the medial aspect of the thigh, and you have to see before doing that, you have to release the scrotum and see the spontaneous ascent of the scrotum when you are stroking the medial side of the upper thigh. And do the same thing, you have to repeat it on the opposite side and see that root value is L1. And when you are keeping the hand there, you press the sartorius muscle, and similarly you can see that a reflex ascent of the scrotum. After that, it is the plantar. Plantar is very, very important to see. Keep that explain the test to the patient. The noku. This to we have to win the confidence of the patient first. Idey mari calendar day. You have to test yourself how much it is sharp. Then, and if it is very sharp, you don't use it. Then see. After that, you have to win the confidence. Idey mari calendar day work. Study the L like this. I mean foot like this. Then note this movement is possible, and you have to roll up the dress ideally above the knee to feel that tensor fasciae lata. Then you have to hold the tip of the knee hammer like this, and you have to start from the medial aspect, draw gently, and see that movement of the big toe and as well as the other toes. When there is crowding of whole toe, that is the flexor plantar response or normal response. When you are excessively doing, he may start, that is what is called withdrawal, especially when there is a drawing of the limb towards the hip. Next is, when there is a, sometimes you can stroke on the side of the sole. Side of the sole, like this, and note the response. Plantar is very, very important. Why it is? Plantar will be mute in acute hemiplegia. Mute means absent plantar. When the patient is recovering from the neuronal shock after several days or weeks, several days, the first sign of recovery from neuronal shock, it is the extensor plantar. Are you getting that? Yes. Therefore, when the mute plantar, you cannot be certain that it is LMN or UMN. But when you are getting weakness there in the upper part, upper limb and lower limb, definitely you have to consider hemiplegia. LMN hemiplegia is unheard of. Now, this is the way you have to look for the plantar. Plantar, when old hemiplegia, you have to look for other phenomena. Now, see, there will be increase the reflexogenic area, the afferent, it is S1. Efferent, that is making the movement, it is the, see, L5 root for extensor plantar. For the flexor plantar response, it is again S1. And therefore, the root value of plantar is, see, it is the S1 for flexor plantar, and extensor plantar, it is L5 S1. The reflexogenic area usually there in the sole, but may get enlarged to extend the even the leg. And in old hemiplegia, if you are stroking that area, you get that extensor plantar. This is the way you have to look for Gordon's and Chaddock response when you are stroking on the outer aspect of the medial malleolus, and upon him when you are squeezing that Achilles tendon or calf, Achilles tendon, you get the extensor plantar response. After that superficial reflex, then it is the deep reflexes. Of course, anal reflex, it is not usually routinely you need not do, but you have to do it in a case of paraplegia. Now, next it is the deep reflexes. Deep reflexes, we know that it is the upper limb, biceps there, and the triceps there. For completion sake, you have to do the jaw jerk too. If you are not examining the jaw jerk under the cranial nerve examination and reserving all reflexes for to do in the general group, then you have to start with the jaw jerk. മേലോട്ടാക്കോ മാസ്ക് എടുത്തോ വേണ്ട യു ഹാവ് ടു ചെറുങ്ങനെ വായ തുറന്ന് വെറുതെ അങ്ങനെ ദിസ് ഈസ് ദ വേ യു ഹാവ് ടു ഡു ഫോർ ദ jaw jerk. Or this is the way you have to. Blow should be vertical, not anteroposteriorly. And root value again, both afferent and efferent, it is the cranial fifth. Then after that, the mascata. After we will take 5 minutes break. Half an hour കഴിഞ്ഞാ